your friends, their top three things. One was food supply. Two was cure for diseases, which you just talked about, cancer, other things that we're talking about.
Yep.
Where was investigating Fauci on the list?
A lot of people are angry at Fauci. A lot of people have a right to be angry.
You were angry. You were very angry with him. You said a few things about him as well, right? A few years ago. You were very bold about it on what he was. You were probably one of the most vocal ones towards him.
When we were all trying to figure out COVID at the very beginning, I was editor-in-chief of one of the largest trade publications that doctors read, called MedPage Today. And I figured we were hearing stories about Wuhan, China. I got to figure out the real story. I don't want to hear political pundits opine and talk about American resilience. Remember that whole, we'll be fine and we'll be strong. What the heck are you talking about? We have to understand the transmissibility, the viral load, the treatments. And so I went deep dive on this. I called doctors in Wuhan during that whole outbreak. And I basically started to realize that Fauci was misleading the public. There's only 3 coronaviruses that cause severe illness in humans: SARS, MERS, and COVID-19. Well, the other 2 are airborne. Why did he think this suddenly took a turn and was just going to be different, and telling teachers in the summer of 2020 to wear gloves and goggles and, pour a gallon of alcohol solution on your mail? And I mean, what the heck was going on? So I realized when he was being introduced on the media as our nation's top, remember this, our nation's top infectious diseases doctor, I knew the guy had not done an infectious diseases fellowship training. And there was this sort of bandwagon thinking. We see it a lot in medicine. We see it with, opioids are not addictive. How dare you disagree? We got that wrong for 15 years. It's an old story in medicine. And so now I realize, as I was trying to figure things out and be independent from just reciting the catechism that Fauci put out, what he was doing with his time is leading a massive cover-up of the possibility that this came from the Wuhan lab, which any smart person will tell you it's obvious, right? The epicenter of the world was 5 miles from the lab. The lab had submitted, we just learned this about 2 years ago, and there's a great film called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and it goes through all this. And that lab had submitted a grant proposal to the United States government 2 years before COVID in 2018, saying the proposal said, we at the Wuhan lab would like to take a bat coronavirus and genetically modify it by inserting the furin cleavage sites to enable it to infect humans. Now, what? It was the cookbook for COVID-19. And then people are acting like, oh, we don't know where it came from. They were plotting to do it. They had the resources to do it. They filed for a patent for a COVID-19 vaccine in like February of 2020. How do you have a patent on a vaccine that early? People have a right to be angry. I'm angry. 20 million people may have died globally, $25 trillion. And people in the United States got so polarized, this toxic polarization, they got spun up by affirming media where they're angry at everybody. They're angry at a college kid who's healthy, there's no risk of dying of COVID because he's not getting his second COVID booster shot. They're angry at somebody not wearing a mask outside, a cloth mask. And they're angry at everybody, but they're not angry at the scientists that brewed this up at the lab. They were mad scientists.
So what should happen, though? I mean, if you think about, here's a guy who said, masks, yeah, you got to wear masks, and the cameras were off, he's taking the masks off. Here's a guy that said, I probably will never shake another person's hand ever again. It's probably a good idea to never shake someone's hand ever again. What are you talking about? I mean, you came in right now. We shook hands. That's one way of greeting each other, right? He says, you should trust me. I think I'm somebody you should trust. Trust science. He kept saying this over and over and over again, and then making people feel guilty. So now people sit there and listen to him. 6-foot rule. I never said that. You kind of did. And hey, my grandma's dying. No, you can't go see her. Why? Because you may give her COVID or you may give you COVID. I never saw my grandma on her deathbed. There's a lot of people that went through this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What can you do? What can, HHS do to make those people whole and say, you know what, I'm good. We got to the bottom of it. Now I can live my life and accountability has been held. What do you think can happen for those people to be comfortable moving forward?
I don't know, but people want closure. They want a proper investigation. They want justice to be served. There was clearly a massive cover-up. I mean, 3 a.m. emails going on when Fauci was told that, hey, this, the Wuhan lab is being implicated, and we funded the Wuhan lab. They
3 a.m. email that he's
to the head of the committee that's supposed to approve gain-of-function research, and Fauci and Collins had created a system. So, the origin is that in Wisconsin, in conjunction with another lab, they did an experiment where they juiced up a flu virus to make it very deadly. And they showed that it infected these ferrets, which are known respiratory models used for research. And they published this article. And basically the researchers said, hey, we juiced up, we Frankensteined a very deadly virus, and we show that it's contagious. And the world scientific community read this article and said, what the hell did you just do? No one should ever do this. Just because you can do something in science doesn't mean you should. This is a bunch of mad scientists. And they petitioned President Obama at the time to ban gain-of-function research. And he, to his credit, put a moratorium on it. Well, Fauci and Collins were known to oppose this moratorium, and they did their bureaucratic ways to make sure that they could continue to do this, including writing an op-ed titled something like "Dangerous Flu Research," gain-of-function research, a risk worth taking. And they changed the definition, and they worked around the committee that was supposed to approve grants for gain-of-function research, and they continued to fund gain-of-function research. Now, President Trump, one of his first things when we all took our office was to ban gain-of-function research, any dangerous gain-of-function research. Fauci will still parse his words. He's kind of a master at it. Like when he said, I had never called for schools to be closed. Well, when DeSantis reopened the schools, he said, this is extremely dangerous, right? And people could die. And so, I mean, he's the master of sort of circumlocution, I don't know what's going to happen, but people have a right to be angry.